So I'm here with Jinesh Patel from S4S Dental. They have a lab up in Sheffield and one in London. And you predominantly do ortho work, is that right?
Yeah, so ortho, splints, aligners, we do snoring appliances. So the full range of orthodontic treatment, basically.
Excellent. Well, thanks for joining me. And as you know, the reason I've arranged this is to chat about sponsorship, i.e. sponsoring technicians from abroad. So I know that's something you guys have done and are doing. And I think it's something that a lot of labs are probably quite interested in as it gets harder to find technicians. So what led you guys to start looking abroad for technicians, as if I didn't already know the answer?
Look, it was a decision made about 3 years ago where we found it difficult to get technicians. And we started seeing a lot of applications through our various methods of networking coming through from abroad. Really good technicians coming from abroad, and we just didn't know how to get them here. And for about a year, we had one in particular that I just knew would have been a great fit to the company. But I put it off. I think everyone is doing the same thing. They put it off. But luckily, I fell into a conversation with someone which led to how sponsorship works. A company that I could outsource all the paperwork to. So we just pay them a fee. They literally did everything from the moment of application to the moment they arrived in the UK. It was all left to them. It made it completely easy. I didn't have to do anything apart from give him whatever he required for me to do it.
Sure. And what sort of things did he require?
So business structure. We needed a proper application. We needed to do interview process with the applicant. We needed to go through basically like a normal interview. Do all your background checks, all of that sort of stuff. They needed our company details, what we do. They needed to find out what job role it was for. Do they fall under the skilled worker regime? And once they got all of that information, he then told me what route that we could go down, what sort of visa we can get for them. We had to apply for something called a COS.
Is that a certificate of sponsorship? Is that correct?
Yeah. So certificate of sponsorship, we need to apply online. Top of my head, fees for that, I think it was a £500 mark.
For the COS.
For the COS, but that's really on the top of my head. I can get you that in depth of what
I think I read it's like 536 for small business, and I think the bigger the company, it goes up to about 1,400 or something. But I think that's really quite a big company. Probably something most labs won't have to worry about. I think they probably fall under the £500.
I think I remember it being 500 on the top of my head. And then obviously the fees for the agent to actually go ahead and do the whole application takeover from us. He got us to sign a document that let him deal with it for us as an agent. So it was actually easier than I thought it would be. Obviously, having a good background in the way the labs work, so having a good paper trail, having a good all of that sort of like legality stuff of the lab. They're going to ask to make sure that everything is like above board. Having your employees clock in, clock out, having all the records of their holidays. That's stuff that we need to keep on in mind.
Okay, so that's obviously something that's that's what they require in order to go ahead to go down the sponsorship route. They need a lot of like I say, a paper trail of everything like that.
Yeah. Okay. So for me, I'm actually the sponsorship holder, so I would have to be liable for anything. So if the applicant decide to go on holiday, I have to make sure everything is written to the T from
right.
Change of addresses, holidays, sicknesses, because whenever
so things like this. How did you learn about this? Did the company that helped you, did they tell you about all this stuff, or?
Yeah, so what they do is once they start the application process, they send you an email with a long list. It is a long list of what we need to keep in mind, what we need to start recording for the applicant right from the beginning. So I've got everything that I need, but it's our responsibility to obviously to manage it.
Because I think one of the things labs are worried about is the cost. I mean, first it's the hassle factor. I think there's people tend to think the sponsorship is a complete hassle, which it's going to be more hassle than employing somebody in the UK or somebody from your own country. But but the cost, what are the costs? I mean, the license is £500.
So the agent fee was about between £1,500 and £2,000 per applicant, depending on how much work needs to be done.
Right.
So yeah, it's. I think it was for the employee I got. I think that was a very, very well established investment.
Really? What would have happened if, say, you'd gone down the route of employing this person, and then it fell apart at the end for whatever reason? Presumably, you'd still have to pay the agent.
Yeah. So that's the thing. I think it's I could actually check that with you. I think it was a no win, no fee sort of thing. If it wasn't successful, I think they do refund a portion of the money. But I can I can have a quick look at that. I can get it to you, but I don't think there was a massive cost implication in terms of how much. I think it was more of an admin to cover the admin cost of starting the process. But you have to choose your agent wisely. The guy I chose guaranteed it. He goes, even if they do reject it, I'll follow it all the way through and get it flipped the other way. If it didn't go through.
What kind of agent is this? What are they called? Like, what?
Just a sponsorship license agent. So the company that we used was Apex Consultancy. Okay. And his background is in immigration law. He's not a lawyer, but he has a lot of experience in immigration law.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, and so he set up a whole business around it, and this is what he does on a day-to-day basis. So he keeps on looking at both the UK government's rules and regulations, and then obviously wherever the applicant's coming from. So we got asked from the UAE, and there's a
lot of good technicians out there.
Yeah, there is.
There really is.
So he did all the research on the UAE side, what the rules were, and it's quite for me. I didn't have to do anything.
Yeah, that sounds brilliant. I mean, just having that help to kind of do the donkey work, the paperwork that lab owners don't want to get into that stuff. It's just too confusing. It's just too much.
Yeah. So that's why I went down the route.
Yeah, I can see it becoming more viable for people knowing they've got that option. The other thing is the cost, but even that I don't think is too horrendous. When you look at what you pay for a recruiter to provide, a candidate. I mean, you can be paying. I don't mean they vary, don't they? But it's going to be thousands.
Yeah.
So no, I think it's pretty good.
No,
and there's a lot more. There's a lot more. There's a lot more really good candidates available abroad trying to get into the UK right now than there are candidates in the UK applying for jobs.
Agreed.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, that's great.
Well, even to this day, we're still getting applications through from abroad. Like it's like they know I've got a COS, so there must be some system somewhere where they know. So yeah, we're getting applications left, right, and center, and you know what? They are good ones, but we're just not hiring at the moment. So
yeah, that's great. Is there a thing that you could see? My worry would be you bring somebody over, you paid the fees, and they're happily working. But what if they then just leave, like after a couple of months, 3, 4, 6 months, whatever? Can you have anything in place, having invested all that money? Can you have anything in the contract?
The only way they can leave is if there is a sponsor that's going to take over there. Otherwise, if they leave, they have to go back to wherever they came from because they've not got right to stay.
Oh, really? So if they quit, if they hand in their resignation, they have to go back home, kind of thing,
back home, or have someone else lined up that's going to take over the sponsorship.
Right.
So yeah, it's a tough one. We've obviously given the contract with a probation period, so that protected us. And if the probation period was for us, we could have had anyone come over, and we don't really know how they are as a person until they really arrive here. So we had a probation period of 3 months with extension of 6 months if we weren't happy. And during that period, we make a choice that if we keep them on or do we send them back. And if we send them back, we just cancel their visa, and then that means they'll have to go back to their country. But it turned out well for us. We had 3 months, and we kept them person on, and yeah, it's been great. Can't really complain.
Brilliant. I mean, is there any kind of advice? I'll put you on the spot. Is there any kind of advice you'd give lab owners that, you know, are kind of on the fence? Do I, don't I go down the sponsorship route?
I think the best thing is the way I saw it was it's an investment. Investments can go either way. You win some, you lose some. And if the candidate's not right, you're going to be willing to just, say, okay, that's £1,500 which I've lost, or £2,000 which I've just lost in getting this person over. Yes, it isn't like it could go either way, but you have to have a rigorous process of interviewing. We did a 3-stage interview for the candidate, and make sure you're happy with ticking all the boxes before taking the plunge, basically.
When you say a 3-stage interview, how did that work?
So we had the initial interview, which was obviously based around the CV. It was a video call, getting to know the candidate on a more personal level. Second stage was we got them to send some imagery in of their work, video calls. We did quite a few video calls while they were working to see, what they're capable of, what their day-to-day looks like in the current setup, what they're doing. And the third and final one was, it was more intense. It was more question-based of what research they've done about us, why would they want to come here? And then once we got through all of those 3 stages, we then decided to actually start the application process.
Great. So how many people have you sponsored? Is it a couple, is it?
So this is the second. The first wasn't down the sponsorship route. That was for someone that was already here, who came here to study. So we sponsored them to do a bit of our business relationship side of things, because their education background is based on that. That one was quite a long time ago. That one was about 6-7 years ago. But this current one, that's our second one. This was down the skilled worker route. So this was application from abroad, and within 3 months of application, they were granted their visa to come.
Cool. So it sounds like you'll probably go down this route again. Like when you're looking to hire again, this is something you'll absolutely kind of.
Yeah, like as in the first choice is always to find someone here. If we're struggling, then the applications are open. I will definitely do it again if the applicant's right. It's dependent on the applicant.
Sure.
We have to make sure the applicant is fit for purpose, basically.
Yeah. It's just great. It just opens up the field so much more than if you're not doing it.
Yeah, no, is I feel much more comfortable. I wasn't in a nervy period of wait a minute, is this gonna
backfire?
Are we gonna first of all, is it gonna backfire? Are we gonna find a technician? Because we were really nervous that we're not pushing enough technicians through this country. And actually, the idea really started when like Australia was struggling with technicians. They use a sponsorship route. Canada doing the same thing. So that the idea really came out from that. I thought, well, if they can do what if we're struggling in this country, shouldn't we be able to get technicians the same way?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's where the background started, and then just it was a couple of years of research, but got there. We got there.
Brilliant. No, I think that's great. And I really appreciate you taking the time to kind of tell me about it. And like I say, I think there'll be a lot of lab owners that will find what you've said quite interesting. It is, the idea of sponsorship is that like, oh God, this is going to be total hassle. Don't know where to start. And just some of the pointers you've given are going to be really useful, I think.
Yeah. The final thing I would say is just, when you're doing the application, it's just whatever the agent says, make sure you give everything. Because one piece of paperwork that's missing will probably cancel the application. So it really all about paper trail. It's very thorough and all about paper trail. So just that's the one key thing.
Brilliant. Excellent. Well, thanks for taking the time to have a chat.
No worries, anytime.
I mean, it's Friday. It's like almost 3:30, so you'll be knocking off in a bit, won't you? Down the pub.
Yes. I'm looking over the window, and everyone's rushing around to get the final bits packed off, so it's leaving on time for Monday's delivery. So it'll be a fun half an hour before we call it a day.
Yeah, well, no, brilliant. I mean, thanks again for taking the time.
Anytime.